TopLobsta Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim shit.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us fight and be slaves. And everybody's just walking around, head in the clouds and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the air.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is TopLobsta, the father of disinformation.
Hello.
Before we get into today's guest, I just want to remind all of you people, all of you fine people. Maybe we stop calling them disgusting pores, huh? How about we say
that comes up as flagged. Like, I've been doing a lot of editing, and they flag it, pores, but they spell it P-O-R-E-S, and it was like, I think he's calling them poor in a derogatory manner. I'm
That's
like, he definitely is, but
I'm
I never
not saying
block
that
it.
their pores are clogged.
No, I leave it like that because I want them to know, but it is mean. I think it's mean.
Well, okay, so we just want to let all of you lovely, wonderful people who support us know it doesn't
Financially
feel right,
challenged.
Yeah, all you financially challenged people, sometime around the 30-minute mark, we're going to be going live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. You can continue enjoying this conversation, engaging in the live chat, as well as gaining access to our tremendous backlog of content, which we are chipping away at.
Look at this shit. Incredible, huh?
Tier?
Yeah, mommy tier, daddy tier.
What does mommy tier get you? Can you read that?
Nothing. But it's $1,500 a month. No members. $100 a month.
Zero members.
Daddy
Can
tier.
you believe that? Nobody wants to be mommy and daddy.
It's pathetic.
It is. We'll drink your breast milk, but
we'll
only
call
men.
We'll call you daddy for $100. We'll call you mommy for $1,500. That's a lot.
That's. I mean, yeah. You know, mommy's a special term, and only real rich members get that.
Let's introduce mommy.
What?
Can we introduce mommy?
Can we introduce mommy? Yeah, let's welcome mommy to the stage. Joining us today is mommy. Back once again. This is, I think, either the third or fourth appearance that mommy, a.k.a.
one of our
Austin Picard, has made
our
on
favorite
the show.
guest. One of our favorite guests to have on.
One of my favorite people.
Oh my god.
Before we get into the conversation, Austin, can you let everybody know where they can find your work?
Yeah, for sure, brother. No, as always, man, you guys know how much I love you guys. And lately it's felt like I'm kind of the child in a sort of divorced type of situation. You know what I mean? Like, no,
We
bro.
are mommy. We
No,
are
no, I've been-
We are mommy.
Yeah, exactly.
We are mommy.
I've been
Mother
missing you
horse
guys,
eyes.
honestly, but yeah, you guys can all find my work at the Underclass Podcast, and the best place to support me is definitely my Patreon, patreon.com/the underclass podcast, because essentially, like, at the lowest level, the $3 tier, you still gain access to the paywalled show that I have with Sam Tripoli and Brad Binkley called Whatever This Is.
Nice.
And yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun, honestly. I think
You also do another show with one of my favorite people. What's that show called?
Already Dead with my brother Jose Galison and
Sweet
from
Jose
No Way
Galison.
Jose and Jules, our shameless producer,
Love
who
Jules.
absolutely and honestly he's been stepping up his game. I love Jules, man. He's the shit, and it's hilarious seeing him on the ones and twos. You know what I mean? But he's gonna help. He's gonna co-host on the 29th with me. Actually, we're gonna have on Donut. Yeah, because
Your
Jose's gonna be
doppelganger.
gone. So yeah. I was like, oh shit, we got to make that happen. We just hit it off at Bro Grove. Honestly, I love that guy. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Donut
I saw you
is one of
guys.
my
They were
favorite
doing the
people.
Spider-Man meme. Like, there's like you, and I was like,
Yeah, basically the
like,
whole.
who did I
fucking
invite
time.
here? It was like both of these guys.
When they were both sitting on stage, I was shocked because I know we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Like, they look very similar. Like, you know, on screen when you guys were sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
That was alarming. I felt like we had two MK Ultra clone babies that like broke
my
out
God.
into the world and then somehow were reunited on stage.
It was jarring. Like, I was running back and forth in the back, and I was like, I'd like look on stage. I was like, I don't have time for this
Every
shit.
time
Like,
I looked at him, I grabbed for my gun. I just felt unsettled. I didn't know what it
Oh
was.
my God.
It was like, what
Part of
what
the
is
same
that?
Oswaldian, Kerry Thornley Nazi breeding experiment or something.
I was like, one of these guys is going to try to assassinate us for sure. That's why they were sent here.
No,
why they were
I
sent
found out he was a Jew and I got a little, suspicious, but
He's very suspicious of himself.
right. Fucking donut.
It's really funny. The first episode we ever did of the official Nephilim Death Squad, we somehow got Donut. And
Episode
wow.
1, yeah.
episode 1, it was like, hold on, where's my button? Episode 1.
Oh my God.
And I didn't know he was Jew, and I kept saying anti-Semitic shit because at the time that's what was.
Oh my God.
He just keeps smiling.
Yeah, all the kids. He was just like, And you know what? To his credit, he's still stuck. I thought he was. I think he was like a little suspicious, but like I was like, listen, man, I don't hate you. I just thought it was funny.
No, it actually, Donut is a fascinating one because if you, he's actually called me before to tell me like, hey man, I'm going through it because I'm Jewish, and I go, wow, let's talk about it a little bit, and so he had to, we logically helped him get through the woods on that. Now he's in a place where he finds it funny, but he also realizes like anybody who's doing super obsessive high level Jew noticing all the time, there's something else going on there. But for a while it was freaking him out.
There's a thing right now that I'm looking up because as we're talking about the Jew stuff, what did I say here? Okay, there's like a back and forth between GNN, the Gentile News Network, because that has a funny name. I actually enjoy the account, and Owen Benjamin, and he's like, wow. I bodied him. He bodied Owen Benjamin because Owen is saying that he thinks the psyop with this Epstein file stuff is to get millions of people to ask for CP.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
I don't know if that's exactly it, but I'm suspicious of what the push is. And in classic fashion of this guy, he actually used to follow me because I was the original noticer. And then I stopped. And this guy now has, let's see how many. He's got, almost 200,000 followers. Purely from noticing Jews. That's it.
Ooh.
Like there's nothing. I mean, it's kind of funny, but there's no other content there. And I'm right. I think after a while you should maybe like if you I don't know, if you're a comedian and all you do is one joke, the same joke all the time, and now you're on Netflix, I think you need to step back and go, what am I doing?
Well,
why is this?
Can you pull this up on the screen top? It's one of the things I'm sharing. So I know it says that for the audience who's looking or who's watching, it says that the post is unavailable. But this guy, I said, I'll settle for the names of the offenders because this guy, Avaricum, whatever, he tweeted and it went Avar I come. It went super viral. And it was basically him saying, release the videos of the child abuse, something to that effect. Of
Release
the child
the
abuse.
cum.
Release the cum. Give me the. And I'm going, wait. Who's asking for that? Who's asking for these videos? I don't know if anybody remembers, but we've talked about it on the show before when those police officers were supposedly tasked with looking at, I think it was Anthony Weiner's laptop.
Yeah.
The video. Just the footage on the laptop was so harrowing that they couldn't watch it all at once. They had to watch it in shifts. Police officers were vomiting and sobbing while they're trying to get through what is on this laptop. And then I think out of the 9 or so officers, including the chief of police who were, overseeing this case, if I'm not mistaken, all of them mysteriously died under strange circumstances.
How many?
Absolutely.
There were 9?
I think there was 9.
And the evidence warehouse burned down suspiciously in an arson case, which
an unrelated arson case.
Yeah, allegedly, right? Yeah, I know that's what they would have us believe, but
that's an interesting thing because I'm not saying Owen has this really fascinating way of cutting through the fat and finding the core of a thing.
Yeah, almost too quick. Like all
almost
the time
too
for
quick.
me.
Yeah,
I'm uncomfortable with it, and I'm a guy who very much is like vibrating on the same level as Owen, But when he jumps right here, and I'm like, I'm not ready to jump there yet.
There's usually steps there, right? Boom, 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 boom. But this motherfucker, he's jumping all the way there, and that is very strange.
And shit, man. I mean, listen, put a bookmark in it. That might be the case. I'm keeping my eye open or my mind open for any other types of psyops, because you've got again factions, right? You've got Elon Musk telling you to ask for the files, and the crazy thing is we've got the files, we've got the names. We've had him for a long time. So now I guess, Owen is a little bit right here. It's like, well, we've had the names and you're going to ask for the files, and then that won't be good enough because they'll give that to you. Then you're going to ask to see the videos. And when you give a mouse a muffin, he'll ask to see.
That's not the story. It's
the Epstein videos. I'm pretty sure that's
a muffin.
I read it to my kid yesterday. Yes.
It's literally if you give a mouse a cookie. But
no,
Austin,
that's a TV show.
No, that's a book. Dude, I will stop this fucking show right here, now. God. If you give a mouse a cookie, I'm looking at it by Laura Loomer. By Laura Loomer. I'm looking at the thing. I will share this tab. Don't disrespect me.
Okay, share your tab. Share your tab, because I'm going to share my tab.
Yeah,
from
go
a
ahead.
different
Bring
universe.
it up. It's up. All right, it's on the thing right now. Go ahead. Yeah.
Here. Yeah. Okay.
You can see that how it would be. How you'd be wrong
if you give a mouse a cookie. But
by
on the other hand, if you give a moose a muffin.
Okay, well, that's a book nobody's ever fucking heard of right there.
That's the original. All right, listen, I'm sorry, Austin. I'm sorry you can't
anyway,
see
Austin,
this. Mommy and Daddy are fighting, and it's not even the same mommy and Daddy.
In front of you. I didn't mean to fight in front of you. Before the show started, you were talking, Austin,
a lot of shit about Jose. It was
lot of shit about.
Oh my God! Don't fucking start,
dude. That's not true.
Oh my God.
That's not true. That's not what Austin was doing. That's very disrespectful, sir. You were talking about staring into the abyss and the abyss staring back at you, right? I mean, this is more or less what's been happening, because somebody like you, who gets into the real nitty gritty of a thing, very information driven, very location, names, and date driven, right? That's how you do your research. And of course, right now, everyone is gripped with this Epstein story. And you were expressing kind of how it's getting to the point where it's unhealthy to be looking into this. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like, it's interesting because Top even mentioned just a moment ago how the list has been available in public for quite some time. I mean, Nick Bryant himself published it in Gawker. It's just like, if you go, and by the way, I told this to Sam and Brad the other day on whatever this is, because to me, it's sort of like perfectly emblematic, symbolic of the current environment that we reside in at this moment, which is basically how the power paradigm functions, how it kind of, I think clearly we're witnessing kind of like the consequential outcome of certain aspects of assets who are very much, kind of overexposed, being left hung out to dry. And I think in terms of Nick Bryant, he always tells this story about how he went to meet with Rusty Nelson, who was a blackmail photographer from the Franklin Network, right? And he meets with him. He's promising to take Nick to a location where he will show him evidence and prove certain, right, essentially just prove certain connections that he was already very much certain of. And but from within, internal documents, legitimate evidence that can prove this fact, because his role was to actually compromise diplomats, politicians, individuals who were around these children and participating in these, sinister sexual proclivities, right? But what he tells them, basically, he gets in the car with Rusty. He's taking him to this location to show him this evidence. And a state trooper, he claims that this is basically out in the boonies. There's nowhere, no one else is around. And all of a sudden, a state trooper pulls him over. And before the state trooper could even come up to the side window, 3 other state trooper cars pull up, right? And this is very unorthodox, strange, unique situation. And so Nick's instantly, he's flustered. And basically, they come up and they're fishing for, is the evidence, basically what Nick thought was happening is that they had a tip that this evidence was potentially in there, that they had it personally and physically on them at the time. And so they were potentially attempting to, actually acquire that evidence. And Nick himself thought if they had it on them personally at the time, potentially things could have escalated and gotten violent. And who knows what could have happened. And it was almost as if this was kind of a desperate attempt to help continue to facilitate the cover up at the time, right? Death threats were being lobbied against them. Anyway, what he explained, Rusty Nelson told him in terms of describing the network and how it kind of operates and the individuals involved. He said, he described it as this metaphorical yacht. He said, you're on a yacht and it's the most beautiful day. And while you're on this yacht, you can have anything and everything your heart desires. But the moment that you decide to step off this yacht, everyone else on the yacht will make certain that you drown. And so it's essentially like you can never remove yourself from the network if you're once a part of it. And so in the end, you will more than likely, be sacrificed at the altar of public perception in many ways in order to kind of misdirect a lot of the interpretations of how, again, it's like they want to maintain the theater, right? In order to, and
somebody's been watching our clips.
I did see that, but yeah, it's just a very thick curtain, and we have to pierce through this veil at every level. And I think that's become my sole obligation. Like, I feel like at this moment, I'm addicted to this path, but I think it's a moral path. I think it's an ethical, pursuit. I honestly do. But at the same time, at this point, it's very much become and is becoming increasingly undeniable that we are essentially, being ruled by a pedophile elite class, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that they are the individuals who have sophisticated measures and methods in place for generations to trap us in this spiritual battle and essentially, I think, absolve you of your soul. Like, honestly, it's like the soul trap that we discussed, I think, the last time I came on, because it truly does seem to be that way. And until you're willing, to peer into the darkness, right? Because that's what essentially, it's a difficult task, man, and it's monumental. And when you just kind of pry below the surface to just even a minor extent, and you discover who Donald Trump's mentor was, Roy Cohn, running human compromise operations for, he helped build the system. I mean, the blue suite parties of human compromise and sexual blackmail. He compromised J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, that's Roy Cohn. That's Trump's mentor. He's procuring children who are being abducted and brought to his to his actual residence, where he's hosting these human compromise parties. And Trump's property is very near to this, right? Very close by at that point. And David Berkowitz claims that he, as a member of the local chapter of the Process Church, essentially they were abducting children and providing them to Roy Cohn for these sexual blackmail human compromise parties. And then beyond that, it's like Trump himself being sued. He's been sued for allegedly raping Katie Johnson, I believe was her name, right?
Was that the crazy bitch?
Definitely, there's a few of the crazy bitches out there.
I think that the most prominent example of any of his sexual assault allegations, was that crazy woman with the short hair. I forget what her name was, but she gets toted out onto the world stage, and then she becomes sort of the main figurehead when it comes to like leading the charge against him for that, allegations of that nature. And she's very quickly exposed as out of her fucking mind, which I think is like, oh, perfect. I mean, if you're Trump's PR team, absolutely perfect that this woman is the one who is going to stick in the memory of, because then what it does is it supports that narrative that these are just shots across the bow to try to take him down. And it's they're baseless accusations, and they're just more things that the media is levying against him that are paper thin and fall apart.
100%. But I just, the issue to me, it's like Trump himself, he obviously, it's like, yeah, we definitely, I agree with what you just said, because obviously the intention is for us to focus on, the misdirection, which is clearly the attempt at undermining the credibility of any other allegations that come forward that kind of are at the very least, similar in any way. It's already casting doubt.
You just go, oh, more of the same.
Yeah, exactly. And, it was interesting because, it was almost like the Me Too phenomenon that occurred, right? Kind of like paved the way to a lot of that as well, as far as just psychologically at face value, kind of dismissing some of those allegations because they're so extraordinarily ridiculous.
What would you call it? Me Too, event or phase or trend that was happening as a psychological operation, just based off of the people who were propagating it, which were Hollywood celebrities.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Those are the people that are getting up on the world stage crying "Me Too," and those are their propaganda arms.
Oh man, I saw there's a video of Marina Abramovich, and she's talking about how Trump is a magician of the highest order, and he's essentially creating order out of chaos, right? And basically to me it was just, it's exactly what, for her to put it into that context, it made a lot of sense for me, because obviously, I mean, understanding individuals like a Jimmy Savile, right, who I kind of like, clearly he believed himself to have been an occult wizard, or like a fucking warlock of some kind, right, where he's essentially like, he believed he was casting black magic spells with his cigar, like, and his jingling keys. Like, he is very strange what he actually was, and even his burial, right, buried at a 90-degree angle, and like these strange it's such a crazy story. He was buried as if he were essentially a vampire. Yeah. It was basically like the burial of what they would grant. Let me pull it up, because it's fascinating stuff. But the point being here is that Marina Abramovich is praising Trump as this greatest thing, and this magician of the highest order.
She said that she was in touch with a bunch of shamans who were engaging in some sort of group dreaming or group visions sharing. And when they all came out of it, they said that Donald Trump was the magician who was going to awaken the masses. And and to which she felt a little bit, oh shucks, I guess that's because of whatever feminist lean she might have. But I think she knew what they were really saying, which is, I mean, you look at MAGA being the highest order of the Church of Satan or some shit like that, right? It's like, then of course, dark MAGA or dark magician. This is his casket?
This is his coffin. Yeah, it's not quite
45 degree. But it's 45 degrees. Yeah, apparently.
It's leaned up. It's strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it looks like it fell.
But people that don't understand the whole spell casting thing, they think that's too far. The way that I explain it is, people are comfortable with the idea that perception is reality. So if you can create a public perception on a mass scale, then you can manipulate reality. So if you are going out and casting spells or casting narratives or creating culture or pushing ideologies on people, then you are creating a consensus among those people or a perception among those people, and thereby altering reality. So you are casting spells. I think it goes beyond that, but that's an entry-level idea that people, I think, can, on a psychological level, grasp and begin to understand, because a lot of people recoil at that idea of spell casting. And it's like, no, just think about it in terms of perception is reality. If you can cast a spell, if you can cast a perception onto the masses and have them internalize that in some way, shape, or form, then you can start to manipulate reality. But like I said, I think it
mind manipulation.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy Savile was most definitely. I mean, obviously he was a he was a necrophiliac as well. I mean, the guy was very strange. He had an Oedipus complex. I'm pretty sure he had sex with his mother's dead body. I'm almost positive that took place. Yeah, and beyond that, he's caught up in the Kinkora scandal, right? The Kinkora boys' home, and that's a fascinating story. Whenever I covered that in an episode on just like a solo project, it was honestly, I didn't realize what I was getting into, which is usually the case in terms of all these stories that I find myself telling. It's very strange, but he was involved and affiliated with the Anglo-Irish vice ring, right? And this has that very much has a lot to do with essentially, there was a destabilization happening in Ireland at this time, right? Where like you had essentially these alpha lodges, alpha Freemasonic lodges at the time were essentially kind of um, they were coming from the UK and effectively running what was called Operation Clockwork Orange. And it's really crazy because this, I believe this was prior to the film being made, but it might have been directly after, if I remember now. I can't quite remember the details of that, but I do. It's so strange how they name these covert operations, but I discovered that basically there's a long-standing, essentially destabilization operation to divide Ireland into two and just kind of like rule over the pieces in certain ways, and that happened. It happens so very often. I mean, it happened just recently in Ukraine. Now it's happening in Syria, which Syria is already kind of a broken state in so many ways, but it's still like what inevitably occurs whenever you have this sort of failed state and destabilized environment, strategy of tension in many ways, which always falls perfectly into the playbook of Gladio, right? But still, you have this kind of like ground zero for basically exploiting this crisis. So inevitably, you have these child care homes, these essentially just becoming priority targets in terms of just utilizing these victims with no real protectors in place. And obviously, most of these, I think, it's very interesting when it boils down to how they had with the Kinkora Boys Home, you had actual like British intelligence who had a nearby hotel that was entirely rigged. A whole floor in that hotel was entirely rigged with audiovisual blackmail, and they would have the children who were basically, the Kinkora Boys Home became a child brothel at a certain level, right? And these children were being experimented on to create submissive boy soldiers, which is very strange, but it was legitimately happening where they're utilizing this. There's clearly there was satanic ritual abuse that was taking place as well, but it gets far deeper than that. And but Lord Mountbatten is involved, and other VIPs in the network like James Molyneux, who is an MP, and they enjoyed like this steady access and stream and of supply of these vulnerable children, right? And so you have not only child abuse and sexual blackmail, but you have of course, this sort of like state-sponsored terrorism that's taking place, which again is very much perfectly in line with the Gladio playbook, and you also have arms smuggling, gun running, state sponsored, basically targeted assassinations taking place as well, and this is all kind of like coalescing, and again, this is sort of the enterprise. I think it's how it functions, and I've witnessed it with like Marc Dutroux, right? Is just a perfect example that I always use. But yeah, you have child psychiatrists who are involved, and it gets very strange. They have this elevator trick that they utilize, right? And it's basically, it was these young children were being conditioned and groomed as intelligence operatives used to compromise prominent people. This is exactly what they would call the elevator trick, where a victim mentioned this technique, which was known for, apparently they would allegedly perform at this particular hotel that had the audiovisual blackmail set up in it that was nearby the Kinkora Boys Home. and the UK Ministry of Defense were legitimately involved in creating this human honey trap operation, which is just fascinating to me. But this is all later on been, at the very least, it's been exposed as reality. And you have even like modern day, right? You have victims from Kinkora who still have yet to, receive any real they have yet to receive any justice of any kind, right? Which is just fascinating to witness. The same with like the psychopath machine, right? Which is just unfortunate in terms of the what's the name of that institution? The Oak Ridge facility in Canada, which is just fascinating how they were legitimately, it was just an offshoot of MK Ultra and the Montreal experiments at the time. But
I think the same thing was going on with that institution in Utah that these kids were getting sent to from. Remember, like Dr. Phil sent the Cash Me Outside girl there. It's like a re-education center for misbehaving children. But
I did not know this,
dude. It's wild. There's actually a documentary on Netflix about it. I forget I think it's called The Program, and it's the idea, you've probably heard of this before, where you have a problematic child and you call this like rehabilitation center. It's similar. It's got vibes to like a military school, let's say. And they come in the middle of the night in a van and they bum rush your child while they're sleeping. And they rip them out of the house. And what they do then is they whisk them away into this van. They bring them to this school. The doors lock behind them. And the very first thing that happens is you go through sort of a demoralization process, much like jail and I imagine prison in general. They strip you naked. They check you for contraband to make sure there's nothing hiding up your ass. They then put you in a room that is incredibly well lit, so it's like impossible to sleep. So they sleep deprive you.
They make you package health products.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Shout out vanman.com.
Oh my God.
That's a weird time for a sponsorship. But
unbelievable. That was inappropriate. Van Man doesn't do that. He would never. I mean, he has a van and he is a man, but I don't think he's doing that. But what they do.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say they break you. The entire process is designed to break you, right? It's trauma, it's sleep deprivation. You're not allowed to bond with any of the kids there. You get demerits for making eye contact, demerits for smiling and laughing, demerits for looking outside. One of the people said that when they were a child and they were in this program, they weren't allowed to look at the trees out the window. So everything is demoralization and obedience. And the ones who get out the other side, they're the ones who didn't break, right? There was even a girl in there who said, yeah, when my time during there, I was so rebellious that the instructors, the teachers, it's really not a great word for them, would take pleasure and bets and such in who is going to be the one who breaks such and such, whatever her name is, because she wouldn't bend the knee. And I think that there's even this other layer where the people who would bend the knee, who would break, there's a selection process there. So those kids would be great for it, right? This is very similar to like the Gates program, where they're trying to find who's a good candidate for this program. So if they can traumatize you, if they can cause you to dissociate, that's what I'm getting at here. It's like the name of the game is dissociate. Everything about the place, or disassociate, everything about the place is so uncomfortable that the only way to survive and the only way to go home, because by the way, those demerits, when they deduct points from you, the point system is predicated on reach a certain point threshold and will allow you to go home. So the only way you get to go home is based upon your level of obedience, your willingness to be broken, which I imagine the only way you're going to go through that is by disassociating.
Yeah. No, I think that, that is definitely the playbook as far as strategically, essentially fracturing the mind, right? And that into alters, right? And that's 100% what the strategy was in terms of the trauma-based mind control involved in not only the Dutroux network, but in all of these overlapping networks. I'm realizing now that the finders essentially was directly involved with Franklin, which overlaps and ties like seamlessly into the Atlanta child murders network, which you can draw a direct line into the Dean Corll murders in Houston. And that all connects to, this is so good, John David Norman and the Odyssey Network, right? And basically the Odyssey
I'm actually
Network.
not familiar with that. John David
Oh
Norman
my gosh, man.
Well, hold on. Wait a second. Because number one, you should be making schizo maps like Seven. I think if you made schizo maps, it would really crush. If you created an entire web about all these things connected, that would be fantastic. But we're at the 37-minute mark. I want to hear about this because I'm not familiar with that. But before we go any further, we have to let everybody know that we're going live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad, or if you guys are cheap and you don't want to pay, you can go to Austin's page on YouTube. Austin, what's the name of that page?
The Underclass Podcast.
The Underclass Podcast on YouTube. You could also go on Austin Picard's Twitter. While you're there, if you're going to continue watching on those places, don't be a bitch. Subscribe. That'd be very disrespectful to not pay us, but then to also not subscribe.
Let me see how. Yeah, we're going to be taking tabs here. Austin has a couple thousand followers. I expect that to be double.
I want to see it. We expect it to be double.
Yeah.
So, guys, go and subscribe to either Austin's page at the Underclass Podcast on YouTube or his page on Twitter, or you guys can go to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. Otherwise, goodbye, poor people. Disgusting. I said I wasn't going to call them disgusting pores anymore. Really?
Sorry, we'll edit it out. Don't worry about
it. Bye. Goodbye, lovely people. Wonderful people. All right, so please, what you said, somebody and the Odyssey program. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So the Odyssey Foundation was ran by this legitimate pedophile that was convicted and spent time in prison for legitimately running a pedophile operation. And while he was in prison, it's very interesting because it turns out that basically he kind of like rebrands the Odyssey Foundation into what became known as the Delta Project. But what I think is most interesting is that all of this seems to, like, this all goes far beyond, and I think back further than even the 18th century Hellfire clubs, obviously, like as far as like these sort of ritualistic, sex abuse parties that were being utilized for legitimate purposes of kind of exploiting and leveraging these acts against individuals for their essentially it was blackmail at the time. It was just not referred to in that way, but it dates all the way to like these 18th century rakes clubs and that were adopting these overly satanic rituals and this apparent like worship of the Greek and Roman forms of Venus and Bacchus, right? And so I found that to be very interesting because that all plays into like these 19th century London brothels, which were held they utilized all these Venus themed child orgies and
Aphrodite. Okay, yeah, Aphrodite
right?
would be the Greek version of that, associated with beauty and desire, right? So not really a way around that. If you're incorporating children into an Aphrodite themed operation, you're incorporating them into a beauty and desire based operation,
right?
Well, yeah.
And this is for aristocratic clientele at the time, right? And so this is like, to me, it's kind of like staging the really just what seems to be kind of the structure of how these networks function. Mm-hmm. You can witness it all the way back to 18th century. Like, it's fascinating to
go all the way back to the Canaanites and what they were doing, right? So, I mean, it's historically speaking, we've had people on the show refer to it as a 6,000-year-old death cult. Call it whatever you want. Mm-hmm. There's nothing new under the sun. This child sacrifice element in conjunction with sexual deviance, and there's an element that isn't talked about as much. Right now the Epstein thing is really gripping everybody. It's back in full swing, and we're talking about the political blackmail aspect of it. But if you take into consideration what I just said, there's nothing new under the sun, and you believe that to be true. Well, if you look back into antiquity, when they were doing these things with children, they were also doing ritual sex magic. So it's not just this element of blackmail. It's not just this element of traumatizing and compromising. There is also a spiritual element. A lot of people don't like looking at that because it's less tangible, right? We can get flight logs. We can, petition for lists to be released. We can look at names and times and locations. It's much harder to grasp onto the spiritual aspect of it. But much in the way that has always been the case, these things never seem to separate. I believe it's still exactly what's happening right now, which is why you always find this satanic element.
Yeah, 100%. And I found it very interesting because it all like seems to involve the Minoan myth of the Minotaur and things of that nature, which it's all like ancient Babylon.
Yeah,
it's
the Minotaur being our idea is that a lot of these entities, these creatures, were offshoots of real entities. These aren't just like euphemisms or metaphors or anything like that. This would be the byproduct of a fallen angel. The cherubim were said to have the face of a man, the face of an eagle, the face of a bull, and the face of a lion. If that was true, and if these things ever did create or procreate in any way, you could speculate as to how that would happen, then you might expect some of their offspring to have the face of a bull or the face of a lion. And then you start to look at all these creatures, chimeric creatures, especially from Greek mythology, and you find maybe there's a home for them. So that Minotaur aspect, that is the Molech aspect, right? Sacrificing your children, specifically your children, to this bull-faced deity.
Right. Yeah, that's, to me, man, I think the only reason that I brought up the 18th century hellfire clubs and the rape clubs of the 19th century as well is mainly because I feel like it provides us with the modern template. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this was almost like they were sort of pivoting into the modern context, and it was evolving into this sort of not necessarily neo-pagan, but it's like basically I do believe that we're surrounded by these neo-pagan belief systems that are very much, I think far more pronounced than people realize, because it's very much kind of hidden under the surface. You have to be aware first, and then you have to essentially, take the time and effort to pursue any real connections, because they're not anywhere publicly available for the most part and being acknowledged at any real level. And that's what, remember when I came on to discuss the Delphi murders, like, who the fuck knows about that strange Vinlander Odinist group in Indiana, right? It's just like that are completely infiltrated in the prison system. But if you look up this John David Norman, right, you get like a sort of I always say the Jimmy Savile effect, because it's just like, for a fact that dude's guilty kind of thing, and
is that physiognomy?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it is. But
Top, you think you could pull up a picture of this guy? I'd like to judge
Jimmy
him based
Norman,
off his appearance only.
John David Norman.
John David Norman. Okay.
Yeah, he's
because Jimmy Savile has the same thing where he just, if there was ever a guy that looked like a Batman villain, Jimmy Savile is up there. And then, of course, given the circles that he runs with and being knighted and all that really fantastic stuff, he's like...
Is this the guy?
That's the guy, buddy. That's the guy.
Yeah, just like, guilty.
Guilty, yeah.
Whatever his crime is.
It's so crazy because he's directly affiliated with John Wayne Gacy, as I mentioned, right? Yeah. And that, to me, it's like I'm beginning to question the concept of serial killers in general, very much the same as what has been kind of presented to the public for far too long, which is essentially... Are you questioning
that, Austin, in the context of them being a fall man for all of these children that are just getting trafficked?
Yes.
Austin, before the show, Austin was like, he's like, I think I've looked too deep into the abyss. And I can't look out. And now he says that's a crazy... I'd like to hear more. What?
It's like, legitimately, I compared it to the concept of essentially how snuff films have been presented to the public as an urban myth for so fucking long. It's it's just like frustrating at a certain point. But I think it's a manufactured misconception, man. Like, honestly, at this point, I'm not denying the fact that there haven't been psychopaths who have committed multiple murders, obviously. But I think the this sort of like larger than life representation of it's almost like supernatural in certain
like the
ways.
Zodiac killer.
Yes, I view the Zodiac. Now, there are multiple murderers involved with that, and I think the Zodiac was even considered at one point to be William Mincer, who was Bill Mincer. They called him Manson 2. Okay, he was a hitman, and he ran security for Larry Flint, right? Who what was his pornographic company that he ran for so long? Hustler, right? Wasn't that?
Okay.
Yeah, Larry Flint ran Hustler, I believe, and it was basically where he was. Yeah. And so he was a pornographic, producer, and he was running Hustler magazine as well. But he was shot in Atlanta, which I thought was kind of interesting because he directly connects to Wayne Williams and the Atlanta Child Murders Network, right? That was being, I'm telling you right now, this is the problem, dude. Like, I definitely caught a glimpse into something I was unexpected. I did not expect to discover. And Larry Flint, he had a individual who was providing him with security, advice, allegedly, was on his security detail. And William Mincer was one of these guys. And so William Mincer, known as Manson 2, affiliated with the local Process Church Satanic chapter, right? Which they're essentially the Process Church of the Final Judgment, or this occult network, basically, that I believe are kind of like, they've been described as the strong arm of the Church of Scientology, which I don't know how legitimate that is, although I do believe that the Church of Scientology and the Process and O9A, the Order of Nine Angles, all of these groups, I believe, are intelligence fronts in order to run psychological operations and also to help reinforce this sort of new age esoteric ideological system of control, right, to consistently exploit the God hole. And provide individuals with these false kind of mythological constructs. It's like there's very much a way to again further entrench the inverted moral landscape, provide people with these false frameworks in terms of their ethical values. And that's what I see playing out so very often, right? Is like these newly embraced moral standards. They're obviously an attempt at eradicating any real just sort of like moral fabric that has ever been kind of very well established in a way that I believe to be clearly superior in my mind, as far as just like the age-old concept of kind of the Christian values, the conservative values that we once kind of aspired to pursue and embrace and exercise it as often as we possibly could. But still, before I get too off track, the whole point was that William Mincer was considered to potentially have been the Zodiac killer at one point. He was running security detail for Larry Flint. Later on, he ends up becoming a hitman who murdered Roy Radin in the Cotton Club murders. And Roy Radin was a producer as well. He was a Hollywood producer who was basically, he had an upstate New York mansion as well, and his death was entirely ritualistic. His murder,
he had an upstate New York mansion.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and
interesting.
What they were doing there was apparently running human compromise, sexual blackmail operations, and having parties that were very similar to that of like the Pink Ballets that were being conducted within the Dutroux network, which is just like, at that point they were just running sexual compromise parties at these like local castles. Yeah, I swear it's crazy. Like members of NATO, like Michael Aquino, right, was legitimately attending some of these parties when he would go on these diplomatic missions, and they were old Nazi castles, brother. So the occult aspect of kind of as far as just at the very least the kind of very pronounced Helena Blavatsky thread throughout the belief system of the SS. At that time, they practiced, what was it? The Theosophical Society. They were very much, it was definitely theosophy was a huge aspect, but it wasn't only that. It had its own kind of like flair to it, clearly. But anyway, the point
can I
being,
ask you something? I'm sorry to
No, go
derail you,
ahead, buddy.
but on the topic of how constantly these occult practices permeate all of these operations, what do you make of it? Do you think that this is an elaborate ruse to play off of the pre-existing ideologies of a group of people? A lot of people will sort of, I don't want to say dismiss it, because that sounds reductive. I mean, there could be a rich body of, it's not what I believe, but I can get behind the idea that there's a rich body of control mechanism behind creating this occult scaffolding, or building your thing on this occult scaffolding, because then the people that you're going to influence, dependent upon their belief system, might galvanize to it, more effectively than they would otherwise? Or do you think that there is a real spiritual component to this?
I think people that is a great question, because it's something that I'm trying to decide for myself on a daily basis. Honestly, it's hard to interpret exactly. I do believe that obviously you have members of certain leadership factions that are clearly exploiting the lower level initiates, things of that nature. But I also do believe that there's fundamental belief in an active practicing of black magic rituals that they believe legitimately has an effect on reality itself, and claiming that not only does it require, this is another reason why they utilize German shepherds, I believe, because they essentially, it was described to me as if they were the most intelligent of the species of animal, of a dog. So therefore it was the closest you could come to sacrificing a human being. So essentially that was the reason why the occult, like for example, Hitler possessing so many German shepherds. Why was the SS providing, as far as like, it was a loyalty test, a puppy, a German shepherd puppy to the elite members. And then they would raise the puppy, and then they would be forced to murder the dog, right? Yeah. As it and that in itself is like a loyalty test to the regime.
I'm telling you guys, you gotta watch the Mother Horse Eye shit. I'm so sorry, because it's like it's consistently coming up. Like in one of the early parts of the story, they're talking about these. It's like a flesh portal that they're keeping open, but it requires sacrifice, some sort of human sacrifice. And below it, they keep humpback whales. And they, like, the scientist, that's kind of like, you're hearing the story from his part of the narration, you're like, why the whales? It seems cumbersome. It seems like they're like, it's hard to get.
Yeah,
it's because it's a pain in the ass to keep them there. And why are they feeding them to this thing when they could just feed them a bunch of small fish? And it's like, well, the intelligence factor. There's a there's a level of emotional intelligence that goes with it. And it's like, this motherfucker, whoever wrote that, he knows a little too much, and that's probably why he doesn't say who he is.
Exactly. Dude, I've seen that
gotta watch
many times.
Horse lady, whatever it's called.
9 hours.
Was it called Mr. Hands? Everybody go watch Mr. Hands.
Mr. Hands, fuck. Don't do it. Oh my god.
Don't do that.
That's funny. No, but yeah, I think that there is legitimate, in terms of, there is devout belief in black magic blood rituals, no doubt, in my mind, and that's kind of perfectly. But also, you know what? It's very interesting, because there are cases where obviously they utilize the ritualistic nature of a crime scene, that it could have been staged to misdirect the public, to misdirect investigators in order to, and that does happen. I believe that could have taken place at a certain level in the Atlanta child murders, but I'll tell you, I'll describe a crime scene where they nailed a biblical scripture to the walls. It's so strange. And the bodies themselves were like, basically, oh my God, there's a theory that because HIV essentially was leaked from Dr. Mary's monkey lab, right? The covert mouse laboratory or whatever, weapons laboratory that they were essentially running experiments at the time. And it's very strange, because Dave McGowan himself even put this in his chapter on the Atlanta case in Program to Kill. He put this potential connection to basically these children being utilized as like test subjects, right? And also because some of the perpetrators, the pedophile perpetrators within the network, were all dying of AIDS. Very, very, yeah, it's very strange that began to take place as well.
That's called, oh man, what is that called? It's called the poison wine test or something like that.
Right. McGowan basically suggests that, so he's saying that the CDC its hub is located in Atlanta. This is 1979 to 81 when the Atlanta child murders is taking place, the exact same time the HIV, arrives on the scene and is introduced to the public. And so he's suggesting that some of these children and child victims could have been deliberately injected with HIV in order to track the sexual transmission and the evolution of the disease while simultaneously introducing the virus to the general public intentionally from a strategic leak at a covert domestic biological weapons laboratory.
That's fucking sinister, dude.
That tracks, though, dude. That tracks.
It does. And
go ahead, Austin. I'm sorry.
I was just like, I had mentioned the only reason I wanted to, at the very least, finish what I was going to say about William Mincer, right, Manson too, because I did think it's fascinating. Like he inevitably, murders this Roy Radin in the Cotton Club murders, and this individual. I think this is another window into the enterprise, how it functions, how they facilitate the cover-ups, how individuals are targeted for assassination if they essentially become overexposed to a certain extent or become too overconfident in the framework of their role in the enterprise. I think that also takes place very often. That was another thing with a lot of the child victims in the Atlanta case. They were basically, you had older children procuring younger children for the network. And then you had, child victims and then child procurers who were also children who were helping with the drug distribution aspect of the enterprise. And so that was legitimately being, facilitated at the time. And a lot of these children were basically, and they called it, they were essentially, they became child prostitutes is what they did. But these are young black kids who are like acting like, what do they call it when they're just basically, I forget the term that they use.
Are you trying to make me say the N-word?
Basically.
How dare
no,
you?
but they're hustling. Damn it, I couldn't remember.
Okay,
I couldn't remember.
hustlers.
They're basically that's so. Now, if you think like, hey, yeah, I was hustling when I was a kid, that means you're slinging boy ass basically in Atlanta. In that case, which really was fascinating to me because you had kids who would wind up becoming child victims in that murder spree, who were claiming that they're getting picked up at this kind of and taken to this local homosexual hangout, and it was smeared with they had a brown substance they were smearing on their faces when they were entering the car. It was very strange. Yeah, I know. And and by the way, I found out recently within as far as David Ferry and who ran the Civil Air Patrol and was hypnotizing Lee Harvey Oswald when he was a member of the Louisiana CAP when he was a young kid, right? And I think so he's hypnotizing him and then raping him, right? And so this is another reason why I think there were members of the Civil Air Patrol that were just cadets, right? Like Lee Harvey Oswald, who met Barry Seal personally, who was also a member of the Civil Air Patrol, which I thought was so crazy. And he was Barry Seal, right? Who was, running drugs for Pablo Escobar and the Mina drug operation and everything, American made, right? Tom Cruise. And they act as if he was just kind of like smuggling cigars and he made a mistake and clearly then he's all of a sudden introduced to the feds and the CIA's like, hey, we got a job for you, right? Yeah. And it's like so fucking just ridiculous in terms.
It's always funny too because then eventually, given enough time, a movie is made about the event
what they did.
Yeah, but like a little bit of obfuscating.
Exactly.
And focusing on one thing and not the other.
Right, because it wasn't cigars at all. He was caught with like thousands of blasting caps and like legitimate explosives, dude. He was running, essentially you had like this det cord, right? Like lines of det cord that he was detonation cord that he had as well. But it was so much more than that because he was running I think he was running covert operations at a young age, even at 16, 17 years old. He already had his wings. He was already flying like a legitimate amount at that time. They called him an expert pilot at a very young age. And and it's very strange. But anyway, he meets Lee Harvey Oswald as a child in the Civil Air Patrol, which is just fascinating. And he meets David Ferry, who he claims at that point he has something. Odom was a childhood friend that he introduced. He said, "You want to make $1,000 a week or whatever at that time with me? Like then come with me to this airstrip, this private airstrip." And this kid that went with Barry Seal says that he sees this individual sitting in front of all the cadets, right? That's basically in all black and has like a beret. And he describes how he laughed at the guy's outward appearance because his eyebrows were so ridiculous.
Yeah,
and it was David Ferry, right? If you look at a picture of that dude. And so he said that when he laughed, Barry got upset at him for laughing, right? Like, "Hey man, watch your tone around David Ferry," type of thing. And was very upset, and basically he never brought him back. But he did offer, like, if you want to start working with us, we can fly in drugs and weapons, basically. And he was running covert missions in Vietnam at that age, in Laos, and these strange areas at the time where they're essentially kind of like it was the Golden Triangle, right? It was Iran-Contra, but before Iran-Contra, and that's what people need to understand. And so, but among the members of the Civil Air Patrol was also an individual who apparently was a high-ranking member of. Now, this is crazy because allegedly Marion David Petty, who was the founder of the Finders cult, right? His son was also in the Civil Air Patrol. And he later works for a CIA cutout known as Air America, which was owned and operated by Wexner and Epstein.
Wow.
Yes. So why are the Finders utilizing the same CIA cutout, airline that Epstein would later utilize when in a very similar context? And so for me, I think that there's no distinction at this point. And I think that maybe, if people always like to question how legitimate Ted Gunderson is, and I think it's a real question to ask. I'm not entirely certain how much you can trust him, but I will say that I've discovered so much of what he's provided as far as the evidence and investigative threads. It's been so worthwhile and valuable to my effort of peeling back the veil that until I find a direct reason to call him this sort of like limited hangout that's attempting to misdirect us in many ways, then I will continue to appreciate what he has to offer and what he believed the Finders was. This is the craziest as far as just description, because he essentially says that the Finders are a CIA front that he claims was established in the 1960s, and the members are specially trained government kidnappers with top clearance and protection in their assigned task of stealing children, torturing and sexually abusing them, sometimes involving them in satanic orgies, bloody rituals, and murder of other children with the slaughter of animals. And that was another thing that Paul Bonacci, right, who's a child victim member of the Franklin Network, who helped later on procure other children. And he was also involved in the midnight tour of the White House during the Confessions of a DC Madam case and the Henry Vincent cult. It was basically a male prostitution ring, but he was running it on behalf of an intelligence operative by the name of Craig Spence. And basically he had been kind of like seduced into becoming a part of the enterprise and then couldn't get himself removed. It was very unfortunate for him, Henry Vincent, but because I honestly do think he was just a homosexual who was closeted at the time and was trying to find ways to engage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then basically he fell into all of this because of just gay dudes he was meeting on the reg. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was very strange, but anyway, so then Henry Vincent,
a crazy pipeline, by the way.
It truly is, because you know what you discover, because Paul Bonacci's and these other child victims are being given these midnight tours at the White House under George Bush Sr., right, which is just fascinating. And he's directly tied in with Lawrence E. King, right, who's running the Franklin Credit Union in Omaha, Nebraska, and obviously was Now, Paul Benassi claims he saw him at Offwood Air Force Base with Michael Aquino, and they were conducting a transaction. So that, to me, is very important, because Michael Aquino is obviously a convicted pedophile. He in my mind, he was definitely a part of the abuse network that was happening at the Presidio in San Francisco, and then the West Point scandal that happened around the same time. But still, the fact of the matter is, like, that Offwood is one of the locations where they claim that Operation or Project Monarch was being ran through, right? Which Michael Aquino has been kind of like identified as one of the key culprits and operators who was in charge of running, basically Project Monarch, right? This trauma-based sexual mind control type of situation. And that, to me, is fascinating, because obviously Johnny Gosch, right? The abduction of Johnny Gosch, who's the newspaper boy, and basically there was a paperboy fetish at the time, and apparently that all took place where allegedly a key perpetrator ordered these paper boys through Michael Aquino. Now, this is all through like Paul Benassi and various child victims who have made statements about this.
Wait, there's a paperboy. You mean like culturally a paperboy fetish, or
Like
an individual perpetrator within the network who's a pedophile attempting to pursue his sexual proclivities and whatever he desires. He specifically has a paperboy fetish. And so he's ordering paperboys at the time to sexually abuse and potentially murder on a farm that was located nearby. And now this is all fascinating to me, because the individuals Paul Benassi names as potential perpetrators who abducted Johnny Gosch, and he claims he himself chloroformed Johnny in the van, right? Which he was basically, Paul Benassi claims they lured Johnny to the van, and then individual perpetrators jumped out of the van, chloroformed him, put him in the van, took him to a farm, after he's placed in rope and things of that nature, and then basically, it's just like, it's interesting because he claims that potentially the individuals who were the abductors of Johnny Gosch, two of them, he claims were involved with the Chicago mob, right? And he named John Wayne Gacy and Phil Paskey, which to me is absolutely crazy that they were named as potential abductors of Johnny Gosch. And but not at all surprising, really, because if you consider the idea that these 33 children are being found buried on John Wayne Gacy's property, I believe it was, and it's just like, to me, he's clearly an abductor. Like, he is a child abductor, kidnapping children within the framework of the network. He is a low-hanging fruit in my mind, and the same as Mark Dutroux, really, who studied how to create these underground prison bunkers with these like airflow ducts that would provide basically a way for them to circumvent any real type of even if dogs were provided for the raid, they wouldn't be able to sniff out, right, the children in the basement because of this airflow duct that was specially created. It's a very strange story, but anyway, I think what is the most interesting about all of this is that it so very clearly overlaps with John David Norman. And so when you consider this individual, who there are a lot of different indications that are saying that basically perpetrators of the Franklin scandal were Delta Project clients. And people need to realize that the Delta Project is the Odyssey Foundation, which is just what John David Norman was calling his pedophile operation, which is just a window into the underground pedophile. It's basically the pedophile underworld, essentially. And what they're claiming is that you have like, man, basically Paul Benassi mentions that he was brought in to this child prostitution ring that kept these pink collection of file cards listing customers and the kinds of boys they liked. And so this is very interesting because it's what was discovered at Dean Corll's residence whenever he was also, the Houston murders of all those children. And he was utilizing victims in that network to procure other victims.
Well, let me ask you real quick. So, it's just because this feels like one of those charts that like everything is connected. Do you think that these people are actually connected, or is this stuff planted there? Like, are you on a wild rabbit chase?
Right. I honestly think that this is a legitimate window into the pedophile underworld, and we're unfortunately we're witnessing, how the enterprise functions to a real extent. And I think that in terms of like we had mentioned, for example, this is what I think is very interesting about all this. Like, you have all these blackmail files that are discovered at John Wayne Gacy's property, right? And so that, I think, is another thing that's very important to mention, is that they were basically, you had this household inventory, right? And this all was put forward by court documents that show that Gacy had a whole set of blackmail files for sports figures, politicians, celebrities, and also he's tied into this JC's, all right, with another serial killer by the name of Ed Kemper.
JC, you said?
The JC's, Jaycees. Okay. It's a very strange connection. But basically, this is what they call the United States Junior Chamber. And it's just this national civic group known as the JC's. And essentially, Ed Kemper belongs to this organization, but John Wayne Gacy was actually named, as the outstanding vice president of the Waterloo JC's in 1967. And you have other members of this network. This is all apparently to sort of like, discover young people who have political capital that might have, some real prominent role to play in the future. It's to sort of like place them on the path.
I'm looking at it right now. You've got Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Al Gore, Ronald Reagan. What? Holy shit.
Oh, it's fascinating.
You know what it feels like, Top? Because I understand the question of being like, because it almost seems too good to be true, right? It's like all of your favorite characters all wrapped
They're all
up
doing
together.
satanic shit right here.
And this is the same thing that we discovered when it comes to like, Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard and Werner von Braun, and then what's Homeboy's name that we've been talking about? We did a couple deep dives on him.
Crowley.
Puharich, right? And then you look at all the connections there between the end of World War II and the beginning of this, MK Ultra program and all of that shit. It's like all these previously separate things, they're all tied together, especially during the same couple of decades. These guys all played ball together. So it's like the exact same shit.
100%. And as far as what happened is basically when John David Norman gets arrested, convicted, and placed into prison for running a pedophile operation known as the Odyssey Network. Basically, he's imprisoned with another individual by the name of Phil Paskey, right? And this is crazy because this is when basically Phil Paskey gets out of prison and begins to run this sort of rebranded. They honestly, all they did was rebrand the network. It's the very same network. They just called it something different. It became the Delta Project after the conviction of John David Norman. And it's the exact same underground pedophile operation. But it began being advertised in this child pornography publication called Hermes, right? And if you consider the idea that, yeah, I know.
There's wait. Child pornography publication? Is this
yes,
like
man.
Search this? How do you even search this?
Don't
dude?
search
you need, like,
this,
a different computer.
But a publication, meaning a magazine?
Yeah. So they would promote. Padika is another one that's very disgusting, and they're pedophile publications that promote these sort of like sadistic sexual proclivities to these individual pedophiles throughout. It's a networking. Honestly, it's all done privately. Obviously, they're privately distributing this among themselves and attempting to keep it all like sort of. Hermes was being published and circulated by all these associates of John David Norman, and allegedly this was financed by this individual by the name of Francis Sheldon, who Francis Sheldon was an old money millionaire who essentially was he was caught up in the scandal of the basically it was North Fox Island, right? And North Fox Island is very interesting because it essentially it ties in the Oakland County child killers case. Okay. And it's very upsetting because basically, yeah. When you find out who Francis Sheldon is and how he was helping finance this pedophile publication, it begins to make a lot more sense because the Oakland County child killer case draws in the paperboy fetish and Johnny Gosh and all these other, I believe, forget the name of Brian Wetterling was one of the others who was very much a key child victim. I believe some of the parents are involved, unfortunately, the same in Detroit, right? Where you have this sort of, there's this strange factor that plays into it where the children are groomed by their own family members, like effectively not usually it's a father or it's a grandparent, which I found very interesting. But that is effectively what I consistently view as apparently they have these kind of like that it's almost like passing down this sort of sadistic abuse network. But
there's an element that I don't know how often it comes across your table, given you're much more of the information driven investigator type, but in the sort of supernatural circles where people are sharing their testimonies and such, where individuals who have had this happen, they're commonly known as SRA survivors, but even that I think has this sterilized nuts and bolts kind of a imagery to it, where these people, when they tell their stories, it's much more supernatural than I think we give credit to. And a lot of these people are telling you it's because of bloodlines and associations with these groups that are in one discussion, we're talking about espionage and blackmail and things like that. But in their context, they're talking about spirituality and genetics. And so that comes up quite a bit when it's like, yeah, my grandfather is the person who coached me into this, and my family is believed to be of XYZ bloodline. Or it has been a long-standing member of a spiritual organization, and you name the spiritual organization, what have you, but there's like a genetics, like a blood and a spirituality component to it.
There's also what is that called? Not lineage, it's called iniquity.
Iniquity,
so it's like a generational iniquity where if this has happened to, I mean, we've interviewed someone like Fringe, we should have her back on.
Yeah.
And at the very end, or maybe it was off the record, she told us about her father, and her father is like involved with these things. And then she goes on to have a life full of abduction experiences and things like this.
Supernatural experiences.
Yeah. And it's the idea in the supernatural realm, or the people who believe in this kind of stuff, is that there are legal rights, and the supernatural realm is more legalistic even than this Jewish realm. So if you have signed a contract, for your soul or the souls of your children. I mean, I think honestly, to bring it back to the Jews, like when you read the Bible, what they say is after they ask for Jesus's death, Herod tells them no, and they beg for it, and he says he's innocent. He says, well, put that curse. He told them that they'll be cursed. He said, put that curse on us and our children. Put that blood curse on us and our generations. And he's like, fine. And he washes his hands of it. And it's like, there's a blood curse there. There's a generational iniquity that's carried on for a long time. And that's why you'll see schizophrenia and things like that rampant within that community.
Alien abduction too, all kinds of shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you want to talk about like supernatural occurrences happening. It's in Israel is like, that is a hotspot. It's probably why we want to be there so badly. We like these esoteric places. So did Hitler. That's why he's, traveling to Tibet and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's the idea of generational iniquity. So a lot of these people, I mean, there would be no way to know their family lineage and what they did in private, because none of this stuff is documented. And then you start going back years and years. It would be so convoluted, but
well, that's
what I'm saying. It's like, as he's telling this story from this perspective, it sounds a lot like the stories we've heard from the perspective of somebody who does not have information. They just know what their family has been a part of as far as some sort of witchcraft or, sorcery or whatever. And just to bring it back to that question that I asked you earlier, Austin, about this supernatural element that keeps manifesting and whether or not it is a facade rather to like hijack the psychology of the victims or the people that are involved in it, or if it's an actual real element. I think the answer is because it's supernatural. If it was real, the evidence would be intangible, and therefore you're left with a faith-based decision, right? And that faith-based decision is, do you believe that this is real, or do you disregard it and say that it is something that hijacks the psychology of man? And to make that decision, the belief or disbelief decision, you have to look at the implications. And the implications, if it's simply to hijack the psychology of man, then not believing in it means nothing.
Right.
But if it is real, then not believing it is to compromise your soul effectively. Right? That's where people, I think it's important for people to understand that. It's like, if you don't believe that this component is real and it isn't real, well, then you have gained and lost nothing and you're at net zero, right? If this component is real and you don't believe it, then by virtue of being real, it might be the most important thing ever. And by virtue of not believing it, there is compromise to your spirit, to the supernatural aspect of your own self. Right. And that is something that, it's like when people go atheists versus Christians, right? And it's like, if atheists are real, then, if atheists are correct, then nothing happens to the atheist. If Christians are correct, then everything terrible happens to the atheist. So if the atheist is correct, nothing happens to anybody. If the Christians are correct, then you'd better fucking consider that, because that means that there is some real serious implications to disbelieving or behaving in a way that suggests it's not real. Right. So, I don't know, man. I know that there's a lot of guys like you who, and I'm not trying to throw any shade at him, but I feel Jose does the same thing. You guys are looking at parapolitical information-based stuff, but it is an interesting thing from my point of view to watch you guys constantly orbit this thing that refuses to stop showing itself.
Right.
Refuses to stop showing itself. And the implications of not believing it versus actually believing it are, when you lay it out the way that I just said, pretty substantial. It's an interesting, but we all do that dance to some degree, and some people's journey just looks different than other people's journey. But it's fascinating to watch you just constantly, because I could see the toll it's taking on you. Before the show even started, you were expressing this, like we said, staring into the abyss and the abyss staring back at you. It's got a corrosive nature to it. A corrosive nature to what? It's to your spirit.
Exactly. And I am entirely in agreement with you, man. Like, honestly, like, that has been my path. I've never felt closer to God in my life. And that's legitimately because I got to a certain point where, like, I've been saying the serenity prayer as a mantra lately, right? Just as far as like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, and it's just like that specifically is just because so much, you want to control the outcome, it's just so very, it's things that you have to separate yourself from. It's something we all struggle with, but for me personally, I'm a control freak. I have I like to definitely have, I like things a certain way. And so it's something that I have to get outside of myself more often than I would like, honestly. And
Austin, do you know what, so in real life, being,
you know how to do it? Let me tell you how to do it real quick. Go to Jamaica, say yes to everything.
No, God, don't do that. Oh my God.
You do
it. Have sex with your wife if you do that.
It's not a joke.
Oh my God. Leads to.
Not a fucking joke, guys. I did it. I broke that in myself. That's exactly how I did it.
That sounds terrible.
Just saying. David, go ahead. What do you say?
In the physical, when you are a control freak, that leads to, a lot of positivity, right? Because you can structure your life, you can schedule it, and you can get the desired outcome most of the time. But still, life has unpredictable, untangible things that it'll throw at you, that'll throw a monkey wrench in your plans. But in the spiritual, when you are a control freak, what that leads to is Gnosticism. It leads to this desperate understanding that you need to understand every aspect about the realm that we inhabit, which is hilarious because if you believe in the spiritual realm, then you believe in that this earth and this realm was created by a god, and when he did it, you weren't fucking there. You weren't there thousands of years ago. You didn't see how the foundations were laid. You didn't see the plan. You don't understand the plan. So in our very short window of time, we're here for 60, 70, 80 years, and as men, and we think that we can try to gain all this gnosis, all this knowledge. I've gotten to this place now where I feel as though I understand some aspect of when the Bible says lean not on your own understanding, because it'll drive you fucking insane. And also imagine believing that the spiritual realm is real and that you can understand all these principles and fundamental building blocks. And we've been here since 1990 something. You know what I mean? It's fucking hilarious to think that. So, I understand because I pursued that for a long time. I wanted to know. It was only until recently where I was like, I don't need to know. There are certain things that I get to be privy to, and I get to admire, this creation and all the mysteries within it. But there's a real, staring into the abyss and the abyss staring back at you. We're not built for that shit. And if you look historically at the people who thought they were, what do you get? You get a Crowley, you get a sex magic, you get a fat Gary the numbers guy, with hang toenails that are yellow, that are his entire fan base is young black children. I've
never seen his feet, but I agree.
I've seen his feet because he stormed the stage with Joe Rogan and threw money at the crowd. It was weird, and Joe Rogan made fun of his toenails. But which is probably why he then went on to find Joe Rogan's estranged father. And got him on a podcast so that Joe Rogan's estranged father could call Joe Rogan a faggot. It was embarrassing.
I saw that. That was
dude, so embarrassing, so embarrassing. But I just wanted to throw that out there because what happens is if you ever do cross over into this, if you do concretely put your feet down and say, yes, the spiritual realm is real, yes, God is real, well then that tenacity that you have, which is a beautiful tenacity, and it's something to be admired. I love having these conversations. But if it's aimed at the spiritual, it becomes corrosive to the spirit, because you just need to know. And sometimes that involves looking into horrifying shit. Horrifying.
That involves that's why these people practice this magic. They need to know now. It's a low time preference behavior. But
yes.
I don't know if you believe in God or not. Well, I see you said that you did.
I do, yeah.
I think that a good idea to continue to put in your head is that he works in generations. This time that we're perceiving it doesn't really matter to whatever he's doing, because it's kind of like, I don't know, if you're thinking about how these entities, these Elohim, like God, perceive time, they're at the beginning and at the end of it all the time. So this part that we're in now is just like a weird blip, and we could understand as much as we can, but I don't know.
I think you could probably understand more than you're supposed to too, but I think it fucks you up.
Dude,
I don't know. I'm invested in whenever I see a mind like yours, Austin. You have this unbelievable ability for information recall. You also have this unbelievable ability to connect these things, and I realize I have that, but 10% of what you have. And that's what's at least enabled me to see some of these things, come to where I'm at, but then show the audience hey, yeah, these things are real, all you conspiracy theorists out here, but the real thing that you need to be focused on is Jesus Christ. But you have that to the nth degree. You could be doing, I would just love to see what a mind like yours does as applied to, the other side of the veil, within reason, so that it doesn't go far.
I love that, man. I honestly, I can't thank you both enough just for, trying to I think it's very important to, it's not about controlling anyone else's path, but or nudging them in the right direction. I think that's not really the priority, but it becomes just kind of a consequence, a consequential outcome of the discussion. And I think that that is beautiful because, me personally, it was all of these sinister, disturbing details that really drew back the veil for me and made me kind of, I had to re-engage and reflect on what I really believed to be the case, what I thought. I grew up believing in God. I had a fundamental background of, it was very much drenched in organized religion and sort of the Southern Baptist version and which was very much, I think, a lot of this clearly Christian Zionism, which was affecting the kind of I think the spiritual pursuit and the path that you should be on. It was sort of clouding that direction, and that happens so very often. And I just think that it's just kind of like, personally, I just feel like I had to, first of all, I kind of ran from what I knew, right? To begin with, it was something that I was just kind of like, I think everyone tends to feel that sort of way, and to some extent, to where you're desperate for, and the alternative experience, to a certain extent. And I was living under this sort of mindset where I was desperate to know what all was out there, right?
Yeah.
And that got me into some very unfortunate and difficult positions, right? That also forced me to reflect on the decisions I made and who I was becoming, and that's when I had to come back to terms with what I believed in, and what my fundamental core values were. And I just, at this moment, seeing the darkness that exists in this world, it's the yin and the yang for me, man. Like, I pursue the light. At this point, what I discovered was that I definitely believe in the spiritual journey, and I believe in God, and I believe that there's this internal spark within us that we all have to sort of, yes, we're all capable of evil, but it's a matter of kind of like, how much can you reject your prior programming that's essentially intended to cloud your vision and judgment, and draw you into the path of the inverted moral landscape, and that's the trap that's being laid so sophisticated. So anyway, there's so much more I intended to talk to you guys about, man. This is fucking frustrating. I do this all the time where I come on, I have like an actual vision of what I want to discuss, and then I just I go a little schizo. But
Well,
that's our fault. I mean,
we do that to everybody. Yeah, we
Yeah.
just derail,
it's all
maybe.
good, man.
That's what
But
we do.
it's still, there's still like a question of so you see clearly what is going on here, what's like the foundation that has been laid for, I guess, this Epstein conversation, right? And it's all based on the things that you're talking about, because there's a clear track record that pretty much points from this Epstein case all the way back to the Finders Cults, to these guys, to Dutroux, to all. Right. It seems like it's all connected. Like, you have just, in the last hour and a half, basically just strung these dots along. But now we're presented with this question of, why is this? It's an idea that's being flirted with, constantly being brought to the forefront. And now we're playing this WWE type game with it, where I said on the previous episode, the Epstein, not the files, but the Epstein log, the idea of the Epstein, whatever he is, was brought up to us kind of by Trump. He was arrested by Trump. He killed himself under Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And we've had Q going on and on about this, and Trump never really shied away from it. Then we get to Trump's part 2, where he gives the files to those people, and they were really just old bunk files, right? It was a whole media thing, but there was, again, there was no reason for it, other than to make, well, you made these people look stupid, but that was a side effect. That's just like part of it. Like, we're gonna tear these people down, but also we want to bring this the meme back to the forefront, and they did that. And then you have Elon Musk saying that Trump is on the files. And then you have Trump now doing this thing where he's playing this game of, it's not that important, we shouldn't release it. The Republicans saying no. Now he's saying we will. I don't know what to make of it, but I know that we're supposed to ask for it now. I think that's where, right? That's where this conversation kind of started. Like, we're supposed to ask for this. And I don't know, it's like the contrarian in me wants to say, well, don't ask for it if they want you to ask for it. But then it's like, well, what the fuck? What are we doing here? Like, we're never really going to get to the bottom of this. But what do you think this is? Why now?
Yeah. Maybe a better way to frame that is, given everything that you've seen and all these patterns, it's the same shit, right? I mean, you just painted a picture of so many things that sound almost exactly the same, happening on a fucking loop. And here we are again.
Say the thing.
Say the thing. It's almost like I mean, almost like, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying that when I look up, at politics, especially at the, not in like the mid, but like the highest levels, specifically the highest levels, it looks like from here, from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot like, it looks like kind of like looks like theater. Theater.
Fuck, man.
Well, it's just why. The question is like, because I'm going to ask everybody that comes on, but why now?
Yeah, I feel like from day one, I was under the impression, I was under no illusion that we were going to get real transparency. I viewed it as, okay, we have the individuals compromised by the Epstein network now in charge of Epstein disclosure. That's going to work well. It's like it was clearly in my mind. But the strange, it's like to me, the strange aspect to it all is how sloppy it's being mishandled. It's just like, man, I just feel like the psyops used to be a little bit more impressive, and at this point, it's almost like a clown show to a certain extent. But I know that there's legitimate, this is all being orchestrated to a certain extent, because I do believe it's political theater, right? And 100% in my mind, I view the political puppets just performing their roles in more ways than one. And it's just to not have the ability to predict the outcome when, in terms of this scandal specifically, they utilized it as you mentioned, with the binders, right? The Epstein influencer binders. This was already this sort of political football being utilized and tossed back and forth as a tool to, manufacture and reinforce more support for his base, and as if you're getting what you're voting for, right? Isn't that what everyone is struggling with at this moment, trying to justify the decision they made? And that's another reason.
Look at it. How does that make any sense? Like, because
it doesn't.
Well, hold on. I have a narrative, a new narrative. I'm not saying this is real, but I've discovered an account on X.
1 second. It's not sloppy either. It's not sloppy. That's the thing. It's like, it's fun. It's easy to say it's sloppy. But it's not.
Okay,
So, go ahead,
here it
David.
is, though. It's this idea. I'm not even going to tell you guys, because I have a little treasure trove of information that I'm sifting through right now, and we'll get to it in a future episode. But the narrative is that Trump thought for a long time, and this is why he's been hinting at it and pushing at it, but it's just not coming out, that he could decouple his own association with this entire event. But it turns out that he's so intrinsically tied into the Epstein story that he's come to the realization that he cannot do it. And so it seems like somebody else is going to pull the trigger and sacrifice Trump and expose the whole thing. But the reason Trump kicked the ball off, even apparently called for Epstein to be offed in his, because it happened on his watch, right? To be killed in his cell, and then go through all this process, is he was going to try to, allegedly, I'm not saying I believe this, control the narrative, absolve himself from the story whatsoever, and release it, through that. So, thereby taking out his political opponents and all this
Do you
other
know who's
crap.
going to release it, David?
Who's going to release it?
Grok.
Well, that's
Grok for government, buddy.
I think
Grok
Grok
Mecha
will-
Hitler got a $200 million DoD contract right after that, right?
Yes, he did. Well, I mean, so we've had just recently, I saw a little interaction where Elon was talking to Grok, and he does it occasionally, but he was asking it about the Epstein files specifically. He was asking it to bring up information on who flew on the plane.
I saw that.
It started to, it's giving you all the information. I'm just like, whoa, motherfucker.
Trump flew 7 times, but never technically went to the island, although there's the stories of him going to Epstein's properties and only hanging out with the help, guys. right? We have to believe that.
That's what kind of he's a man of the people. He's a man of the people. He's just hanging out with the help. I think even this, when it does come, it's gonna be theater. But man, if it goes this way, I'm like, this could be a great look. There you go, Memphis, Egypt. That's what Elon said, that the next god will be coming out of Memphis, Texas.
This is what I'm saying. It's like if we're just looking at the child sex part of it, very gay. First off, don't do that. But like we're missing so much, because like what I'm seeing here is again like this. What was that ritual called? Where he's got the blood on the ear, blood on the foot.
The Kingmaker or the King Killer.
It's like the Kingmaker ritual. It's a Jewish ritual where they'll have during the ritual they put blood on your right ear, blood on your right foot, and Donald Trump obviously after the whole thing had the blood on the correct spots.
No fucking shoe on.
No shoes on for no reason. Yeah,
you saw that footage of the different angle, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and now everybody's asked. I saw Jake Shields. Shout out Jake Shields. He goes, wait, was this thing bullshit from the jump or something? I'm paraphrasing it. Talking about the Trump assassination, and I'm like, we said that day one.
I'm glad we put that video back up. Here.
It's right great here. Call on that, by the way.
Yeah, because we were there like last year immediately with Sam, and Sam was like, I don't know if you guys should say this, because
I remembered it. I was so proud of you guys because it was all
said it, baby.
Dude,
look at how bad I looked. Oh my god,
great, David. I like it.
Oh my god.
But anyway, so I think it was Oli Demigard that said that was a. I know David hasn't out in 4 minutes, but we might bring you just. A
it's
couple
fine. We
can
go a little bit more. I hate you, but it's fine.
All right. Oli Demigard immediately recognized it as as fake, and I think he was the one
as theater.
As theater, he was the one that said it was the King Killer ritual, and the King Killer ritual that was like this transfer of power from Joe Biden, who was like weak at the time anyway, and then Trump gets shot and all this, and then all of the power, all of the influence immediately just boom, like you could feel the power vacuum suck over to him, and I couldn't explain it at the time. It looked like bullshit to me. But
I love it at the same time that Biden was like walking off into the forest for his. Remember that? It was so funny, dude.
Yeah. But there was something like metaphysical about that. He took all of the air out of the room of the Biden administration, and in my eyes, there was no doubt that he'd win this election, and he did win. I think overwhelmingly, even though the vote count was still kind of crazy. So that's the King Killer ritual. Joe Biden is killed, and it's being transferred over, and now I think we're seeing the same thing. You're seeing this thing with Donald Trump where he's submitting to it. And who will it be transferred over to? I mean, it's either going to be transferred to Elon Musk, who is the guy that something happened.
No, see, Elon Musk is going to he's going to get shot. And then what's going to happen is his Neuralink is going to be the reason that he survives, but it's not really him. It's his reanimated corpse with AI or Grok inside of it, or Adrian Dittman, right? And the reason that's crazy. Able to happen is because right now we're all jerking off and giving sex ritual magical energy to Grok AI in the form of some
that's crazy. It's
uwu, what is it called? Like an anime chick. Because that's what everybody's jerking off right now to this anime chick Grok. We're giving spiritual sexual energy to it, to birth it, to give it sentience, to breathe life into it. It's called Ani, which is Hebrew for I am, which are the words that Yahweh spoke when he was asked who is he goes, I am who I am. And this is what's going to happen. He's going to die, and then Neuralink's going to reanimate his corpse. And he's already backed up. A personality of his is already backed up on X, on Twitter, in the form of Adrian Dittman. So it'll come back virtually identical to Elon Musk. All the same behavioral patterns, even the same voice and everything. That's what's gonna fucking happen. I swear. And then all of a sudden, Elon Musk, as I'm kicking that idea around, Elon Musk tweets a meme of Obi-Wan and Anakin laying there. Anakin's all fucked up because he was in the lava, and leaning over him is Michael Jackson going, Annie, are you okay? Are you okay, Annie? And then who is Anakin? Anakin is the man who dies and is resurrected as half man, half machine, and literally the embodiment of darkness. He's telling you. And what does he say? Read his caption.
Memes are the most information-dense form of communication.
Oh, are they? Because on the surface, this doesn't look like it makes any fucking sense.
No.
But he's telling you that this is the most information-dense form of communication. So what is he communicating?
That's so funny. I know
he's going to fucking come back. That's what's going to happen.
It was very strategic and convenient timing for him to distance himself from Trump. at that moment, right? Considering the fallout that's just the consequential nature of the fallout of this Epstein blunder. That I think that how it was obviously predicted. It was, I mean, you don't have, these kind of individual advisors surrounding you that are orchestrating, the public perception of who you are as a political actor, in the theater. And that's what I legitimately said, by the way, like the day that happened, that event, right? With the fake assassination attempt, I legitimately said the world is a stage. And I said that, what the only thing I know for certain and that moment was that Trump was 100% getting elected at that point, right? I just knew that was it was inevitable now.
That fucking fist pump photo op and all that other shit. Yeah, 100%.
Became inevitable. And I felt like that in itself, staged, brother. How did you not feel that to your, core of your soul, your bones? Man.
As a species are hijacked by excellent storytelling.
Right. Yeah, dude. Yeah, and I used the fucking Epstein.
He's got a scary
You
smile.
fucking nailed it, guy. Oh, political theater. Yeah, he's saying you took David's line, but besides that, you nailed it. Oh my god,
he nailed it. He nailed it.
Right.
I'm glad when somebody with actual information and intelligence can say anything that I look, I'm like, I'm almost saying the same thing. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel. I go, Austin's smart. Austin does research. Austin reads. And I'm saying something similar to him. I must be doing all right.
I was so proud of you guys, man. When you went on tinfoil, I was like, thank you. I fucking love you guys. Like, it made me feel like I was less alone because I felt surrounded in that moment with naysayers that were just unable to see what was happening before our eyes.
Well, we were hanging out with one of my favorite people in the world, Clint Russell, and he was saying he didn't believe me. Like, he thought I was so retarded for saying that it was staged. And I'm going, dude, I am operating with no information here. Zero information. I'm leading the way with my gut.
No, the information that we were operating with was our eyes and our ears, and we were looking at it and saying
that fucking kid was in a BlackRock commercial. Is that not enough? What the hell are we talking about?
What the fuck, man?
It's not enough.
I mean, to be honest, it wasn't just.
Let me say, I think this was the main difference between what was going on with the dynamic between all of us. And it was fun for the fans, but we're clearly like moving in two separate directions, and not just politically or ideologically, but spiritually. And I think that showed itself when things got a little bit weird or a little bit
serious.
rough.
Yeah, when it really mattered.
Yeah, when it mattered, the people would, they'd rather cling to the lie. The lie of Donald Trump was, this is pretty serious. They wouldn't lie about this. This is not political theater.
You mean to tell me that guy didn't die?
We could negotiate with people who hate us.
Right.
This kind of thing. And the falling off is not, like, in retrospect, it's not a surprise. And it's what was the scripture you quoted a while ago? And it's kind of
at the highest levels, it's all political.
No, it's not scripture. This motherfucker. It's something. Whatever. Oh, it's about yoking yourself to the world.
Yoking yourself with non-believers. It's like shit. I forget which one it is, but it's what does a believer have in common with a non-believer? What does faith have in common with this or that? It's
and it's not faith. It's like it is part faith, but it's part knowing. Yeah. Like in your gut when you're presented with bullshit, like there's a knowing that you go that's not it, and I'm gonna move on from that.
Well, that's what Austin said it in the beginning of the show. He feels like he's caught up in a divorce, and we're not trying to make you choose, Austin. That would be a terrible thing for any parent to do.
But choose.
But the divorce that you're caught up with is not us and sweet Jose Galison or anything like that. The divorce that you're caught up in right now is the spiritual from the physical.
Well,
that's
right now,
what you're getting whisked up in.
I'll be very clear about it because I have been quiet. Only behind the scenes I'd say it, but I'll say this on the show whenever this comes out. The divorce you're caught up in is a divorce between me and Clint, not Jose. Jose panicked. Jose used feminine aspects of jealousy and I'm just saying he used feminine aspects of jealousy and insecurity to create.
I feel like he was just reactive in the moment. That's all. He was just a little reactive. It was a
he
high
made a
emotional
decision. No, he made no. Sorry, David. I'm just gonna say what the fuck needs to be said.
Fine.
He created a situation in his head in which David was his replacement, which David was because there was many times where he didn't show up to his duties. That's on him, and because he's lazy, that shows in his work. And then there were times where I have criticized his work because I really liked him and I wanted to see it do better. But if we go through his Rumble page here, you can still see that his work is still quite lazy and a little bit subpar, just out of laziness. So he took offense to that. Good. Well, we'll just go ahead. I know this is your co-host, but I'm just gonna say so. No. These are listen, man. Very simple things. This is 16 by 9. Oh yeah, he does have to
fill those 16 by 9.
Yeah, these are stupid mistakes that I've told him about that he took offense to, didn't want to change, and I guess he thought that meant that I wanted him out, which in fact means the opposite. Clint wanted you out, but that's who you've cleaved yourself to, which is great. And also take down my artwork. But it was never a decision. It was never a decision of to asking him to leave. He did that on his own, and he chose what he thought would be more beneficial for him at the time, which well, he'll find out. But it is what it is, man. And yeah, so sorry that you got to be through that.
For the record, I enjoy Jose. And I think it was a shame that he got so upset with me, but it didn't make me upset with him. And I think he's a great content creator. Could he use some improvements? Sure. But could I use some improvements? Sure. I think we all could use some improvements. So I like Jose.
Yeah, no, listen, that's why I wanted him on TopLobsta Productions, and Clint didn't. But that is neither here nor there. And what is done is done. So we are.
Yeah. So what do you think about that, Austin? What do you think about the fact that we just buried your co-host on a live show, huh?
No, I didn't. Listen. He's been burning me. You've been burning me on a live show, and people have been burning me too. So now I'm going to say what I need to say, and now I'm done.
It's the same thing. Like when he obviously, felt the need to address it on the show. I just sat there silently because similar to what I just did here, because I have nothing but love and respect for all of you. And it makes me, I don't want to publicly burn any bridges whatsoever. That's not any sort of not as if I'm not willing to stand on what I think is right and what I agree with.
But if there's not a reason to do that, there's not a reason to do that.
I felt like it wasn't my place anyway. And beyond that, I felt like Jose's done a lot for me just by, I love Jose. He's my brother. And by, obviously, just being willing to have me on and be willing to kind of attempt to create something and grow together as well. Mm-hmm. Just that alone is a bond that I think is beautiful. And it's something that I value very much. And so I love him and I just have respect for him. And I just but the thing is it was kind of a struggle for me personally, because throughout all of this, it was before you even started discussing it, this sort of, unfortunate fallout. It's this strange, consideration that I have personally, how can individuals, kind of see and I'm not saying this is Jose's personally, but I'm saying you claim to not be spiritual, but to also kind of believe in the karmic consequences of things that. To me, I don't understand, because it's that is a spiritual consequence, and
it's a spiritual concept as well.
Exactly. Karma. And so that is in no way, some sort of atheistic perspective or viewpoint in my mind. And I think that it's kind of within all of us too.
That's actually one of my biggest bummers. I this is probably too much behind the scenes, but I reached out to Clint recently too to try to make amends. It is that we are overt Christians, and a lot of people have a lot of disdain for Christianity.
Sorry, said the wrong button.
Hit the kids. It's Christian. We do that. It's so a lot of people have disdain for Christianity, and I hate the idea of having people that were close to me have a falling out with me and then be like, yeah, see, Christians are fake and gay. That upsets me a little bit. So I don't want Jose to think that, what I believe is not what I actually believe, and that it's just some sort of LARP. I don't want Clint to then see the way that I've behaved towards him and have him go, yeah, Christianity is for people like the guy that I hate, right? I really dislike that, because these guys are all really, really close to.
That's the same path that I had to take from the church when I was kicked out, and then eventually find my way back here. And you know what I learned after that long path? I was an immature asshole. And I think that they'll learn the same thing if they have any kind of self-reflection. And I also think that it's not my fucking job to teach anybody. So
right.
Yeah,
I don't like the idea though.
I had to kind of just reflect and, you know, on what my goals were, what I was kind of attempting to achieve in the first place with what I'm doing. And this has been a personal journey for me from day one. I was like, you know, and I feel grateful for that, you know, because in every way it was just, I was hoping people would be willing and interested enough to come along for the ride, you know, obviously, but at a certain point, it just kind of like getting to actually meet you guys in person and the hospitality you guys showed me, and you know, the same goes for Jose, honestly, just, you know, getting like being around him and it's just, but it was interesting because I think meeting someone physically in person, it, you know, it breaks and shatters that barrier that you can kind of, you know, unfortunately, you know, so many people like are under these sort of false impressions and misconceptions because of like this online personality and persona type
and then
of thing.
Text-based conversations and shit. Yeah,
exactly. But breaking through that and just getting to like meet you and go to your house, meet your family. Like, I love you guys. I honestly, like, I legitimately, to me, it confirmed the fact that you're good people, and you know, I think your intentions are pure and your heart's in the right place. And I think that, you know, what you're attempting to pursue and build is something that I view as entirely worthwhile. And in my mind, what was achieved at this Bro Grove was just, it was extraordinary, man. I felt so blessed to be a part of it. And so I did want to say thank you for that in general.
Of course. Thank you for coming.
Obviously, the hospitality alone, I very much appreciated, but that did reinforce and confirm for me personally, like, you know, who you guys were at a personal level. And that was something that I think is I prioritize, because I just, like, I don't know, for some reason, my circle's small, who I consider to be a valuable person and worthwhile. And Sophie, chill. My dog's fucking freaking out. Sorry. Sophie. But anyway, so, but yeah, I just have to say, man, like, it was something that I felt like this is what we've all been sort of working toward, you know, and it kind of like came to fruition in the real physical manifestation of it all. And so I know you guys have done it multiple times, but for me personally, it was just like something that it was almost like an out of body experience, because all of this has seemed, you know, it seemed kind of like a little bit larger than life, just the path that I've been on since April of 23, right? When I started the podcast, and it's just happened very quickly. You know what I mean? And I very much, I thank Sam for that. I want to say that
because it's not, I don't know where Top falls on this. I probably have an idea of where he falls, but for me personally, I have a lot to be grateful for when it comes to the hand up that Tower Gang gave me. And that includes Jose, and that includes Clint. I only benefited from the work that those guys already laid down, right? And I would have liked, if in a perfect world, for those guys to have been a part of it, to have been, because Bohemian Grove 3 was the actual realization of what we wanted that event to be like. And Top can tell you that leading up to it, I thought a lot, and I kept going back and forth with him about what does Tower Gang's role in this look like, because we wanted Tower Gang to have a role in this, because, you know, Top cared about the show. Obviously, he put a lot of time and effort and work and you know, built a relationship with those guys. And often referred to them as our brothers in what we're doing. And so I wish it would have gone differently, and I would have liked for them to have been a part of it, because it was like, up until we finally were about to cross the finish line, those guys all helped me tremendously. And it's not like they had to go above and beyond, but just like having me on, platforming me when I was nobody and I was just a little bit funny, so I could hang out on the show and do shit with them. And then, considering doing shows like Dangerous Retards and all those things, massively
considering
benefited
doing the
me.
show like Dangerous Retards was more beneficial to Clint, who needs a personality or people around him that are likable. Because when he asked for the fans to ask for returns, him and Jose, for ticket sales, I only had to return 2, which I shouldn't have, but I did. So yeah, that's kind of a testament that 250,000 followers equals 2 ticket sales in real life. So who needed who? Again, I'm not to be bitter. I'm just being realistic to the people who continue to ask me to redo something or revisit something that I had nothing to do with. It wasn't me that quit. It was these people.
Well,
And
I'm
they
not
quit
saying
on
that
me
we have to revisit anything.
No, I'm just saying they quit at a point when, it was like a critical moment, and you did it to try to hurt me, and then you try to hurt me again after, which is unforgivable. So that's why when David, when people text them, or even when we're bringing them up, my artwork is on their shows. It's like, it's a reflection of me, and I really don't want to give them another second or another, breath of the life that I'm breathing into anything. So texting these people when I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's bigger than I could even imagine or expect, you get nothing from me. And it's unfortunate, and it's not about being bitter, but it's just how it's got to be now, because you've created that. Like after everything that we've done and everything we've been through, you've kind of created that circumstance for yourself. So that's that.
I definitely, I felt like it was all entirely unnecessary, but that was just me personally. And I'm not saying that after it began, it didn't have to be dealt with and resolved, but I'm just saying, like, that was, but I will say, when I told my wife, she's like, she knows you're Puerto Rican top. And she goes, yeah, he's not gonna let this go. Just as far as you will definitely stand your ground, and
Something about that island.
It's a beautiful thing, and I'm not saying that I'm not outwardly taking a position only because I legitimately I view it as if, like, it was something that, again, I felt entirely it was unnecessary. But when it boils down to the bottom line, like, out of principle, that was my difficulty. Like, I was going to Bro Grove no matter what, and essentially, like, if there's an issue with the venue, well, fuck the individuals that aren't my brothers. That's kind of like basically how I feel personally. And politics aside, like, who cares even how it was dealt with and handled, and what honestly, that was just kind of how I felt personally. But when I came to Bro Grove, it was like exactly what I could have imagined. It overexceeded all my expectations. We're standing there in a room, right, filled with people, with like-minded principles. Yeah, dangerous retards, right? And it was just a beautiful thing to witness. And I'm telling you, like, for an outsider not understanding what was like, obviously the actual intentions behind what was happening there, could stumble across the one of those evenings and legitimately be concerned, right?
There was one dude, I caught him. He walked as soon as day 2 began. He was in there, and then Elijah Schaefer got on stage and said, "We're gonna have a race war," and this guy said, "I think I gotta go, dude."
That's
and he got out of there.
That is so funny.
It was very funny.
But yeah, as far as just, like, I'm a very loyal person. I've always been that way. So I just I don't like to see infighting, especially infighting with people that I really admire and respect. And so that all has definitely just bothered me, and just to see it happen. But again, it's just like, personally, I will definitely always kind of like take the side of against this sort of establishment line, which is definitely in my mind, like if you have an issue with one of the individuals who are going to perform at the event, go fuck yourself. It's just like, it's not that difficult for me. I don't understand, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like maybe egos got involved at a certain extent to a certain level. And whenever that takes place, it's always difficult to, kind of, I just think people are unable to admit fault sometimes. And whenever that happens and you double down, and especially when it's public in nature, and it's kind of being handled in public like that as well. It's just like, I feel like it just gets too much involved in the sort of egoic mind, right, is activated. And that, I think, is just something that it's unfortunate to see, and that's all. And I will say that I try and practice the law of abundance, much like what I view, Sam does. I think I love him for that, man. I think he's one of the most beautiful people in the world. And for him to kind of go to bat for all of us as often as he does, it's just like, man, that's the mindset I want to embrace and attempt to, like, basically, I couldn't have achieved any of this without you guys. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I would have gotten to a certain level, but it's like, we do need each other to sort of like coexist in this space to a certain extent. And so, but I just have to say, man, like, honestly, it meant the fucking world to me going to Bohemian Grove. And
you better be at the next one, because the next one, I think we're probably shooting for, I don't know, we're talking about whether or not the holiday season is a good move or a bad move. I think it might be a bad move just based on the sense that a lot of people will have already traveled. Mm-hmm. They'll already have bought tickets to go see their families and stuff like that. So it might not be a good idea, but I was also thinking maybe it is a good idea because you might buy somebody tickets as a gift. I don't know, but it'll be in that general time frame. If it's not, December, January, then maybe we'll do February, March, something like that. But I think we're going to aim for that time frame. And of course, you'll be invited back. And of course, we'll have you on stage with your doppelganger once again, you and Donut.
Would be a great show. I mean, just the two.
Honestly, you guys are like really interesting sides of the same coin. You know what I mean? Like two different sides of the same coin. You and Donut. It's fucking strange, dude. It's like the MK Ultra program seeks to split the hemispheres of your brain, and they nailed it. It's like they separated you guys at birth and made you the different people, but the same people. Very interesting. So of course, Austin, you'll be invited back to the next one, and I think maybe it would be safe to do
one more question for Austin before we go, because I love seeing David squirm. I know he's got to take a shit or something. Austin, up, are you having fun?
Oh yeah,
man, that is so interesting. You asked me that question, brother. Ooh. That is so interesting. Do you know how much I've been praying lately? Dude, that makes me emotional. Like, honestly. Just because, like, I'm like, I basically go through a ritual before I do an interview. Almost, it's not any cult in nature at all, but it's just, it's kind of like this strange.
He's like, it's a small animal that I sacrifice. And, I have all these mice that I keep.
An hour before I'm about to have the interview, I take a shower, and I just like a therapeutic shower, and I pray. Yeah. In the shower every time.
Oh, you pray in the shower too?
I pray in the shower every time.
Nice. Base. Me too. See that top? You need to be naked praying in the shower.
In the bath. Showers are gay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Pray in the bathtub.
But I straight up, and this has sort of been my internal mantra from day one. I pray for my heart to be in the right place, my intentions to be pure, my mind to work efficient and effective. And then I've been recently, I'm talking the past 2 weeks, so it's not like anything that's been constant or for quite a long time, but it's definitely, it's been recent, maybe more than that. But I pray that let me have fun. Let me have a good time. Let me have a fun conversation and just kind of like enjoy this. Right. And sometimes
I ruined it. Sorry, the last.
I did. No, not at all, buddy. Not at all. But it's something that I think I put too much pressure on myself. I want to I think I expect a lot. And when I know I had a better way to describe something, or I had an easier way to kind of like connect these patterns, and that would be much more sort of like just palatable for the the audience. It's like I get very frustrated, and then I beat myself to death internally for a while, and that doesn't help.
I don't think you have to do that anymore, though, Austin. You've arrived. I can understand. I think you need to internalize that. Is that there's a show that you were trying to get to, right? A big show where you were going to spread this information that you found important, right? You wanted people to hear what you had to say because you think that you locked onto something that's the truth and that's important. And I know the pressure of wanting to present that shit the right way because you've got this shot or this opportunity. You're going to be with Sam Tripoli or something like that, and you want to get this out to the masses, but you're now here to stay. And I think you can sigh a breath of relief and then start having some fun, because whatever you don't get out in this episode, let's say, you're going to get out in the next episode or the one after that, because we're going to have you back again and again. We're going to share the stage with you. You're going to be our homie. Sam Tripoli's going to do the same thing. You've got a slot.
You're a brand.
You don't have to fight for the slot anymore.
Yeah, treat yourself like a brand. That's why, like, before the show, I was talking about, like, different angles and stuff like that for just little things like that. But you're a brand. Your style of speaking, people like it. Your information that you're bringing, people like that. So that's your brand. Don't sweat if all of it doesn't come out at the same time, because there's so much that we could say at any given moment, but you're never gonna check all those boxes, man. But focus on the brand of what you are, drill down deep into that, and keep doing the shit you did here, man. And that's why
you don't have to keep fighting for that slot, man. You're already.
That's
here.
why David graciously gave it half an hour more than he was willing to.
Yeah, because I like you. If it was anybody else, I would have been like, "Fucking no, dude." By the way, I've just been bailing on things. Not like I don't hang around for after shows conversations anymore. I just have to like go. It's just so much. I don't know what it is.
We should end. We
got to end because we have to talk to Matthew Lane after this.
Sounds good, guys.
And he's gonna tell us some incriminating shit about primary waters that's gonna get our door kicked in by the fucking kids. So it's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to going to prison. Austin, wonderful conversation, brother. Where can everybody find your work? Who's undoubtedly gonna look for it after this?
Thank you, man. And I love you guys. Honestly, I do.
Love you, brother.
And you guys, everybody can find me at the Underclass Podcast. Definitely the Patreon, best place to support me, patreon.com/the Underclass Podcast. And yeah, man, beyond that, check out the recent interview I did with William Ramsey on the Atlanta child murders. I felt like that was we had a pretty good conversation.
Love
William's
William
the man,
Ramsey.
dude.
He's
William's great. And then, definitely check out whatever this is. It's been so much fun, dude. Sam and Brad are the best.
I love that's so cool.
And
that
Austin, one more.
And dude, you're right. I'm terrible at plugging Already Dead. I really fucking am, dude.
Bring it in for a fucking landing, Austin.
All right,
Austin.
No, I thought he wasn't going to. I was like, don't not, because I
you
got
to plug. What is it? It's called Whatever This Is.
Whatever this
How
is.
many shows is Sam Tripoli gonna do? Good God.
Dude,
I'm
know.
glad that you get to be a part of one. When is that guy gonna stop doing? Jeez, it's a lot of shows.
It is crazy. I don't know what exactly, he's just, I think it's idle hands or the devil's workshop type of thing. And
he'll be beaten off furiously.
Yeah, he'll furiously beat his dick to death if he doesn't. 100%, dude.
I love it.
But,
I love it, man.
Already Dead every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern time. Appreciate you guys.
Of course, brother. Of course.
All right, guys. Until the next 30 minutes, when we're back, don't forget to obey, submit, and comply. Goodbye.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real.
You can persuade them that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see.